So hey Dhruv, how's it going?
All good, man. All good.
Welcome to Graceful Coffee Roasters Bandra West.
Right. So you got on two floors.
Yeah, 2 floors. So is house 25D, Bandra West, Pali Hill. And down is the slow bar and espresso bar, and up there will be like a bigger, larger seating for everyone.
I'm happy by myself, not a care in the world. This is a life, just me, myself, and I.
Hey guys, welcome to Behind the Coffee, a podcast talk show by Graceful Coffee Roasters. I am Chirag, your host, and we are doing episode number 6 today. We have a very special guest with us today, Dhruv Sehgal, screenwriter and coffee enthusiast. I'm pretty sure he needs no introduction.
No worries. It is a trip in Bombay.
Indeed. I appreciate that a lot. We're doing this podcast because I think as a lot of our viewers will know that you are a coffee enthusiast, a true coffee enthusiast. And I remember that we met in Koregaon Park, Pune, where you and me ended up talking for 40-45 minutes, though we had met for the first time. And the discussion was centered around washed and natural coffee. And any coffee conversation or related to or remotely close to coffee, then I can't stop talking about it, because I feel that when you're talking to someone, you are either learning something from them, or I always have something to talk about coffee and give back. So thank you so much.
No worries.
Let's jump right into the podcast. Dhruv, I want to ask you a very simple question. Just tell us, what is your coffee routine? What kind of coffee do you prefer? How do you brew? Or are you that guy who is like, I will have 10 to 15 or 20 equipments and then decide what is my favorite brew? Or you're more like, okay, coffee is the king, or the recipe is the king, or the equipment is the king? What's your routine? What's your favorite beverage?
No, I think the bean is the king.
Okay.
And the roaster is the second king, and the brewer, if everything is done well, the brewer has the easiest job. At least in my opinion. You can't screw up a greatly roasted coffee and coffee from a great region. So my routine depends on the day of the week. From Monday to Friday, I do a very quick coffee thing, which is I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I just enter my office, and the first thing that I do is I just brew myself a very simple AeroPress.
Okay.
And it can't be something which is, how do I say? It can't be something which is very exclusive.
Okay.
It can't be an international roaster that I've paid 2,000 or 3,000 or whatever.
For a bag of coffee,
Yeah, for a bag of coffee. It has to be something which I'm like, I know exactly what I'm going to get out of this. I have my recipe set. I know what my temperature is for this one. I know what my ratio is. And I am in no mood for surprises. I'm in mood for comfort and inspiration. Let's put it
So
that way.
first coffee has to be your way.
Yeah,
And
it
your
has to-
recipe is more or less the same.
Yeah. More
What
or
about
less
the whole rage about clear AeroPress and colored AeroPress and all the new things that are coming in?
No, they look very good, but I think to own one of the older AeroPresses is actually a cooler thing, and I feel I'm very lucky. And I bought one AeroPress to gift to a friend of mine.
The one with the red markings.
No, this older one, golden markings.
Oh, okay.
But him and I don't talk anymore, but I feel very good about it because I'm like, I still have this AeroPress and it's unopened. So maybe in 5 years, because the current one is being in use for 4 years now, I think. More than that. I'm in no mood for surprises in the morning. In the afternoon, it sort of changes. Then I'm like, okay, chalo. For my afternoon cup, it has to be a good V60 pour over, and I don't care if it gets messed up a bit. But it's something which should sort of make me feel as if this is the second part of the day. It's like a 2.0, so I need a start.
How would you end up, what do you mean by messing up your...
Anything, yeah. I think it's not very easy to brew an excellent cup of coffee every time, at least for me. It's not very easy to be very consistent, even if you've made like 10 coffees. The ball, I mean, it's always a bit here, a bit there. You will always get a decent cup from a good bag of coffee, but sometimes you do mess it up a bit. You do swirl it a bit more than one is required to.
Sometimes you hit the paper, sometimes you don't.
Exactly, and sometimes I end up not pressing reset on the grounds. And then so those kind of mess ups do happen. But I think the second cup of the coffee in the day is more for discovery.
So do you see do you feel that there is a problem there that needs to be solved? Like the reset thing you mentioned or the perfect recipe that you mentioned?
No, I don't think there is a problem. I don't think it should come easy. I don't think any sort of great cup of coffee should come to you easy. It should be expensive. It should require the time. It should require you to make notes. It should require you to at least pay attention, which is why I haven't really
like ventured into a clever dripper or had your switch, I guess.
No, not as
more
yet.
forgiving.
Yeah, no, not as yet, but maybe I will. I will. Yeah, I think AeroPress is extremely forgiving.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe not right now. Maybe in some time I will invest in a clever drip. For now, it's just a simple V60 and an AeroPress. But from time to time, I do use a French press. A very simple 3-minute recipe of.
Yeah, that is something that people don't use anymore to brew, because I think though you start with that, that's the end of it. You eventually move on to a V60 or an AeroPress.
But a lot of times what happens when I buy a really good cup of bag from an international roaster and I'm not able to sort of because the margin of error is so big that I'm like, so what is the best way to extract this? Because every cup is pretty decent. So just to play it safe, I always try and make a French press out of it. To just understand, okay, so these are the flavors that need to be there. This is what is the inherent quality, and the way I make a French press, it really doesn't require any technique. It's as close to cupping as it can be.
Okay. Just ground coffee, hot water.
Just ground coffee, hot water. I wet the AeroPress filter, I put it on top, and I don't even grind very coarse. I grind pretty fine. It's that typical Lance, Head and Drake and Coffee Chronicle French press method. It's just 3 minutes, and I just
press it down and
So I know at least this though is an attribute of the coffee, and I just need to take it a notch higher or lower. So
is there a third cup, or?
It depends on the work, it depends on my mood, it depends on how much sleep can I fight. But the third cup usually is a very small one. It's an 11-200 on AeroPress.
Okay, like 11 grams of coffee.
Yeah, 11 grams of coffee, 200.
That's something I haven't tried. So.
This is the James Hoffman coffee AeroPress recipe.
Nice.
Where you're just doing it for that. I've never been into cold brews. I tried making them at home. I tried having them, but I never really
didn't like it.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
And the whole so-called, I think, what people are calling it as the fourth wave of coffee is all about cold brews and mixology and having a tonic water and cold brew and all those things together. Which I agree. I think even I have not gotten a chance to like
it's
it
nice
like
once
it
in a
yet.
month. Yeah. Like I love coffee tonic, but can't do it on a regular basis.
So if you have someone over, then what kind of coffee would you brew for them? Like, is it going to be your French press? Is it going to be your AeroPress? Or is it going to be a V60?
It'll be a V60 or it'll be an AeroPress. But in both brews, it comes with this disclaimer: don't expect this to be the most amazing thing you'll ever have. Just don't get taken by everything that is going on in front of you.
But that's the case, right? Everyone I have had made them have a pour over. They are like, okay, I cannot go back to the coffee that I was having, or at least I'll be giving specialty coffee a chance now, and I'll be having it more.
Exactly.
So,
and also, I think the simple notion that just because it's a hot beverage doesn't mean you need to drink it when it's boiling hot. Just give it time, just give it 5 minutes, 8 minutes, sometimes even 10 minutes. Wait for it to open up, wait for the temperature to come down. And they're like, "Arey, to garam hi nahi hai." I'm like, but you get to taste the flavors. It doesn't have to be like steaming hot.
piping hot,
Yeah.
So there is no espresso machine or an espresso setup that you have?
No, not as yet. I'll do it once I've done a very simple barista training, either in Bangalore or maybe in Delhi.
Okay. But I think you're curious enough so you can like self-educate yourself. It should not be that difficult.
I don't want to, because what I do for a profession as a screenwriter, I ended up teaching myself a lot, and I feel there is merit in formal training. Of course, in India, the education system is so flawed that it takes you away from formal training. But some amount of formal training in some
fields. You either need a mentor or you need formal education.
Yeah, you need it, man. You need it. So if I ever get into espresso-based drinks, I will take that 1 week course in Bangalore. Stay in a nice Airbnb and do that. And I really look forward to it. And
nice.
And I've been, planning it that okay, I'm gonna do it in this year, but I will do it. Yeah, my wife wishes to give it to me for my birthday.
The whole
so
setup, nice.
Yeah, so I'm waiting for her to make enough money and be like, here's the certification, here's the machine, enjoy.
What I have is a very simple machine at home. It's the Breville Barista Pro.
Is that good?
It's excellent. I've been using it for 9 years
Wow.
without any maintenance or
Really?
service. Yeah. All the compromise would be towards the 9th or the 8th year would be the grinder. You will see inconsistencies.
So the machine comes with the grinder itself?
Comes with the grinder.
That's pretty cool.
And it's a stepless grinder.
What does that mean?
There are no clicks to it, like it just rotates to and fro. Yeah. So you have a better control over the grinder.
So you can change the grind setting?
You can. It's not like a click 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
4. It's like 1 to 16 smooth grinding. So it can be 1.5 also. It can be 2 also, 2.5 also.
Okay. And one would be espresso. Is it too fine for espresso?
It's too fine for espresso.
So what
It'll
would
have to be 3.
3. And what would 16 be?
16 we will pour over.
Okay.
So it
you
does
can-
pour over to espresso. So even if I have to make my morning pour over, if I'm not using my fellow over and the machine is already on, which is the Breville, I'll
Yeah.
end up doing 16 and I'll make my pour over.
So you
It's
don't
like one machine for everything.
so you can just grind it. You don't even have to brew it even if you just use the grinder.
No. You ground the coffee into your portafilter, you lock in, you make your espresso and you
Is it-
steam your milk.
Yeah.
For me, if I'm making a pour over, I'll just ground it directly in my V60.
wait, that's
Hot
what I was
water
thinking.
spout is also there. So I'll do the hot water thing, I'll put the V60 there,
Very
ground coffee will fall.
Very cool. Very cool. and they have updated the model, or is the same model that is still being sold?
So the first model was Barista Breville Express, and then they launched the Barista Breville Pro. There are 10 more models above that, but Pro is the best, I would say. Because others are like touch and this and that and all the fanciness.
So
which
is
not
that
me.
where you started experimenting and getting into coffee first?
First, I think it was cafes for me, and then it was the Breville. Yes.
What cafes?
McDonald's, CCD. I started way back, right? I started like 11 or 12 years back. So that's how I got introduced. So like every other Indian, right? You first saw coffee bean.
Yeah.
There is a bean, and then there is grinding happening.
Yeah.
And then you're brewing the beverage and you're having a cappuccino or a latte.
Yeah.
So that piqued my curiosity. Then I ended up buying a Breville. Then got exposed to roasters, then started buying the beans, then started making my own latte. Then international roasters to develop the palate or see what's different. And then moving on to French press, then moving on to pour over, moving on to AeroPress and other things.
And did
But
you have a community in all this while, or were you doing it yourself?
doing it myself. So it was me and YouTube, and then me bothering a lot of people with all my questions. But then even today I have a nice meal, I have my breakfast, that's my first rule. I'll have food first and then I'll brew my V60, I'll have my V60 and then I'll get started with my day.
So no tea at home.
No, I've had that for 20 years of my life,
Yeah.
as every other Indian kid. I had 15-20 years of my life, and then I don't remember having my cup of tea.
There are some roasters that I know who are like, subah we just need that cup of masala.
No. There is nothing need basis. I don't know whether I'm denying that I'm used to coffee or not, but I just like starting my day with a cup of coffee and making my
It
own
has to
pour
be
over.
hot.
Has to be hot. No matter what, I don't do an ice drip, ice
Yes.
pour over, ice AeroPress, nothing.
Yeah.
Now being in Mumbai and starting Resol Coffee Roasters here and looking at the weather, I am still crazy enough to have a hot pour over, I guess.
Same, I'm that guy.
Yeah, I realized when you said AeroPress and the recipes and the V60.
Yeah.
Great. Good to know that. The 11 to 100 grams is something that I'm going to definitely try. And
there is no agitation required.
yeah,
It's just,
a new coffee that we release, I'll probably try that.
Which
Probably
one is it?
We're doing 2 new coffees. One is for espresso, which is called Strawberry in Loop.
okay.
We're going to be actually serving in the Bandra West outlet. It's excellent as a cortado or as an espresso and americano. And after that, we are doing some naturals from Odisha. So this is the first. Yeah, this is the first year that we're doing some coffees from Odisha. It's also different for us, and the naturals is something I really love. Moving on to the next question, Dhruv, now that we are talking about Mumbai and being here, and then Resol finally being in Bandra West, just wanted to know about the culture of coffee here. How much have you experienced? How much are you exposed to? How is it different from any other part of this country?
I think a lot more specialty cafes in Bombay than any other city in India. But controversial hot take coming your way. I don't know whether they are as good as some of the other cafes in different parts of India. For me, do cafes in Bombay sort of pursue this level of excellence in what they brew? I don't know. I have not experienced a place where I'm like, man, I'll travel for 3 hours for that cup of coffee, which like an idiot I've done in other parts. So I don't know whether that is happening, but there is a fair bit of awareness. There's a lot of excitement for coffee. But I don't know, man. I think because of our population, the space for nerdiness and the space for geekiness and the space for excellence always gets subdued by the noise around it. In the sense that you will always have, out of 100, maybe 2 people asking for a pour over, and maybe 10 people asking for a, no offense to those people, but an iced caramel latte. You know, so suddenly, I don't know whether you can really.
So you mean to say that out of 100 people in this city, all 100 want to have a cup of coffee, but probably their preference or inclination is towards a caramel latte as opposed to a.
110%. I mean, I can only speak from my experience of the friends that I have, the circles that I belong to, but it's coffee still means milk and sugar, and it has to be like, my.
So how do we change that? Like how can we as roasters bring the change, or how do you want to bring the change? Or like before the podcast rolled, you said that why not do a meetup? So will people be interested in participating in that meetup anyways? Like
I feel one way to bring about that change is to have baristas who are bloody well excited about what they brew, and to transfer that excitement to the person who's...
Very well said, but then that profession is still not considered to be an exciting profession. So,
it's not.
Yeah. So
but,
from whoever I have hired or interacted with or spoken with, it's still a job for them. Like if I am a CA, I'm into IT, I'm into this, it's a job for me. So barista also, unfortunately, is a job for them.
But more and more, I feel India is turning, or parts of India is still, it's accepting the cafe model of life. Like cafes are opening up everywhere. Even in a small town, you'll see, what the hell, there's a specialty coffee roaster in Ajmer. You know, you'll have someone in Nashik, you'll have someone in Nagpur, you'll have someone in Noida. So you'll have a roastery in Cochin, you'll have a couple of specialty cafes in Ahmedabad. So the idea of good coffee is relevant now, at least to me, because I end up traveling a lot due to work. And the first thing that I just do cafes in this part. And I was supposed to be in Mangalore last week, and there was a cafe that was serving good coffee. You know.
So you walk into a cafe, and what is your expectation?
Well,
just go, order, sit, have your coffee.
No. I still read a lot about the cafe before I go there. I make sure that I check their Instagram and see whether they're excited about their coffees. And one of the first things that I judge the place is that if they have a highlights on something to do with their farms, something to do with their processing, something to do with their roasting. If they're not even giving me that information, I know they're not serious about it.
Okay.
Yeah, but still you get a lot of cafes which will at least buy good espresso beans and make at least a decent Americano. So for me, the first thing to do is, as a consumer, is that excite me with something that you know much more than me. So
you leave the decision up to the barista.
Yeah. That's how I started. And I mean, coming back to that,
what was the success ratio? I am assuming it was high.
I ended up buying an AeroPress. I had 4 pour-overs for free in 2 days. And he said that everything is on the house. Just try. That was also because I'm one of those people who would be the first person to enter the cafe at 8 a.m. when they're just even cleaning the station properly and dialing in their espressos. And I tend to be the last person to leave in a lot of cafes because I like the quiet of the night in that sense. So I ended up being friends with him. So he said that if you're really into this, then understand there's going to be a long curve. So let us be the curve. Just try coffee. You know, आप ये try करो, and then I started having something like a Riverdale It's like, man, I've never had this before. He's like, why don't you buy this Aeropress? I said, it's a little expensive for me, 3,000, 4,000. He said that he just did the math for me. He said, okay, just have coffee for free for a few more days, see if you like it, and then invest in it. So he converted me more than any other cafe, YouTube.
And that's what we need. That's what we need.
Like the barista is finally the guy who's being the, what's the word?
And that has only happened in this city, or that has happened somewhere else?
It happened to
the
me.
The success ratio here is more, or?
No, so I mean, I've lived here a lot, but you know. So I think just the excitement around something good is very palpable. And I think in India, because of this whole podcasting, consuming content, reading books, be it on Kindle or paperback, people are interested in knowledge at least, you know, and especially if it's non-fiction, I feel. So a good barista can really, I feel, do something.
Make a lot of difference.
Make a lot of difference. And I feel with baristas now, because there's so many cafes, and going back to that earlier question, that because for them it's still a job. But now I think in 5 years down the line, it will be a very prized job. Like a great barista in India.
No, it already is.
Yeah.
So like I said, unfortunately, it is being treated as a job, but it's actually fun. It's also exciting. I understand there are long hours and you have to wait behind the bar, but the people you meet, I have stood behind the bar. I've spoken to so many. This is how you and me also met.
Exactly.
And we ended up having a conversation. No relation, no connection. We're not getting anything out of it, but we were just talking.
True.
Will happen. And I did a last podcast where I was invited, where they're talking about job roles and job opportunities in the field of coffee. I highlighted that point that barista as a job opportunity and roaster as a job opportunity is a lot of jobs available, because as you said, the cafe culture is going. There's so many cafes opening up that people don't mind paying a little bit more for a well-spoken or a well-trained barista also.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I think I also get into a cafe with the hopes of having a good conversation, having a great cup of coffee, and then getting out and then coming back and being a repeat customer. So, but having said that, it's also difficult to find that right person.
Absolutely, man. I can totally imagine.
Yeah. Let's do a bar takeover where we are standing behind the bar and doing this conversation with people. So the industry that you belong to or you come from, how about that? Like, what is the exposure level there, or everyone knows and everyone is doing their pour over there and starting their...
Interesting question, you know, I think, because at least the industry that I am in, and I believe a lot of them are people who are interested in life. You know, I don't want to say coffee, but who are interested in different point of views, be it of politics or sports or whatever the hell. I think if I was a roaster and you brought this idea in my head, if I ever start a roastery, I would just do batch brews. Because industry mein, barely I see people drinking milk-based coffees.
Yeah, like I just want the coffee and go.
Yeah, so, and I feel a good batch brew on set can just liven up the set like anything.
I'm also glad you brought it up. You realize there is no culture of batch brewing. Like, I've seen it in a couple of countries abroad where
it's exceptional.
Yeah,
it's really exceptional.
Make a big batch, you just keep it there, people are refilling it and having their cup.
And it's great cup.
If you still go to the McDonald's on the highway, they will have batch brew.
Really?
You can just give it a try. I've tried it a couple of times and it's not bad.
No, it's not bad. Yeah.
But then I feel that kind of audience is not chasing the flavors. That kind of audience is chasing the caffeine.
Maybe in a McDonald's, but I was in France and I was in Georgia, and I was having the batch brews. And again, all down to the barista. I would ask for a pour over and like, so what are you doing in the batch brew? It's like, oh, is this? Wait 1 second. They'll take a small shot. It's like, here, just taste it and what you think. You know, this sort of...
But that isn't that model like based on you pick a glass and then you have unlimited refills?
Yeah, that is. But I'm just saying that if I wanted a pour over and if I asked about the batch brew, they'd be like, you want to taste it? Just at least taste it. So just opening up the world of specialty to more people.
So you as a roaster would be roasting like one kind of coffee and then just be tying up with the...
No. I meant that at least on movie sets and film sets and shows sets, the idea of a great batch brew is very exciting, because everybody wants a great cup of coffee because you are bloody overworked, you're working through the night, and what a cup of... And I carry my own cup of coffee, and I know what people around me feel when I open my fellow flask. And they're like, what the fuck are you drinking, man? And I'm like, oh, this is this coffee, and they have a sip like, this is exceptional.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. You have a pour over once and then you're like, okay, this is great, I want to have more. But then I don't see a lot of initiation taken to take the next step. That, okay, tomorrow I'll get my own coffee, I'll get my own fellow, and I'll brew my own coffee.
I also think it's also because now people just look, like those pods have started coming out.
Yeah.
And now people are talking about specialty instant coffee. So I don't know, the incentive to go all the way is also less.
Have you tried?
The pods?
No, the specialty instant
No,
coffee.
I've never tried. Yeah.
Pods, I don't know. Pods is pods, and the instant coffee is like we taking 4 steps back when we are trying hard to go ahead.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. Though there is a good hack in pod. If you use a reusable pod, then at least you can fill it up with a fresh ground coffee.
True.
But then I don't know who's willing to take so much effort also.
Yeah.
Every pod customer or a consumer coming to me, I tell them buy a reusable pod. You can get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Buy a bag of coffee. I'll ground it for you.
Yeah.
Add a little bit every day and then have your coffee. At least do your pod mechanism, get your delivery of coffee that ways, but at least have some freshness and flavor intact.
But a lot of my friends and friends who have visited over the last 2-3 years, I see that their kitchens, at least 70 to 80% of them would either have a French press or a mocha pot. This I'm noticing. And most of my friend circle would be in Bombay, Goa and Delhi.
Okay.
And I feel, at least in these 3 places, people have stopped drinking instant. And people will buy either from the popular ones or from the neighborhood ones, or they'll search from India, but usually a French press or a mocha pot is quite
pretty easy.
It's quite common now, at least in the circles that we sort of.
Yeah, I was at a restaurant yesterday and I was surprised to see a mocha pot. Not surprised, but I was not expecting that. So the whole tiramisu being made on your table is kind of getting popular now. So they got
they do that?
And so they get the gingerbread, they got the mascarpone, they got everything. And then in the end, there was a mocha pot.
Yeah.
So they brewed the coffee in a mocha pot and then they poured that on the plate and then soaked the gingerbread properly in that and then made the whole. Just happy to see that because that's the right way of doing it. Of course, coffee is coffee. I always say that if you enjoy instant or you enjoy pot, as long as you're enjoying your beverage, it's great. But just know what's out there because there is definitely something better out there also.
And something better that is paying a fairer price to everyone involved.
Yes.
As opposed to this one guy sitting in America.
Yeah. Every discussion that I've done with the producer on the podcast is about pricing. Yeah. Very sensitive over pricing because they are also struggling with the global warming and all of that. But I'm happy that in India we have a concept of direct trade. Like you are a farmer, I reach out to you, I buy the bag from you, I roast, I even talk about you, you promote me, I promote you, and that's how we go hand in hand. There is nothing. If you have to buy coffee from Ethiopia or anywhere else, there has to be a middleman in between.
Yeah.
To an extent, I felt that in the northeastern region of India also, because not every farmer does know how to communicate that well or understands the price of the crop. So there is always someone in between.
So what is that middleman called in the industry? Broker.
Yeah, you can call that. As simple as that. A middleman.
Profession.
It's not strange. So they feel that they're doing the right job because they are connecting you with so many farmers.
Fair
and
enough.
Wherein if you were to go directly, maybe the farmer will take a step back. No, I don't know you. I don't want to give you. Maybe you don't know what the coffee is.
But are they interested in fair practices?
No. But to some extent, they even help the farmers understand what coffee processing is and how they can get the worth of their coffee. But of course, that just inflates the price of coffee and eventually everything increases. Because at farm level, if something increases, then the effect is still till the end. But like I said, luckily in India, we don't have that as an issue.
Yeah.
Want to move on to another question, which I think we pretty much touched upon at the beginning, but leaving aside the thought that you would someday become a roaster.
No, I won't. I don't think I'll ever make that mistake.
Not a mistake as such, but anyways.
Yeah, no. I've done that thing where I do something that I love for a living. I don't want to do the same thing with something else.
Yeah, so roasting is more about, like I always say, it's about passion and curiosity.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't, I don't know. You might think differently. It's not like work, but nonetheless, what do you expect from us roasters who are bringing you the coffee or are being the bridge between a farm and a brewer. You being a coffee enthusiast,
I don't know how to explain.
researching so much on cafes, you going to so many places.
Yeah, one thing that I would really expect is for cafes to not allow people to have their brunch parties and kitty parties and people doing Zoom calls and we don't. It's so strange. Like the cafes abroad, they're about a moment of just not solitude, but they're just about a moment. You go, you have your coffee, you read a book, a page or two, or you just spend time with yourself and you leave. Here, because again of the way our society is structured, they become the social outings. So cafes are damn loud and
I know what you mean.
yeah, like since
But that does not happen often if you go to, if you come to Graceful Coffee Roasters Bandra now. I don't think we have ever hosted any event. So what I'm trying to say is probably a cafe owned by a roaster or operated by a roaster, you might not find, or have you?
no, it'll happen. Of course, it'll happen. Of course, it'll happen. It may just happen the first 2 weeks. It'll happen. But I don't end up going to a cafe between post 12 o'clock.
So it's early morning only.
It has to be only early morning, at least in India. Or at least there is one cafe in Juhu that I end up going to. I don't know what that says about that cafe, which is relatively empty.
I was in Vietnam 3 or 4 weeks back, 3 or 4 months back, and then sitting at a place, so they explained me the whole thing about coffee. They, like I said, the barista has to be really, really curious and passionate about it. Explained, brewed, I was about to take a sip, like don't take a sip. Rest it for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. We can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Then start taking a sip. Then talk more about it, and then they leave you, be you, and then you enjoy your cup of coffee.
exactly.
And that's it. There's no other distraction.
Yeah. And the idea of food also is so small there, right? There's no cooking.
That I agree with you. That it has become like a 60-40 thing or a 50-50 thing.
Yeah.
Food
and the
has-
food menu keeps increasing. And the coffee menu keeps staying the same or sometimes even shrinking. But yeah, my expectations, at least I don't know about the roasters because I actually don't know much about the hardships.
From both the perspectives, from a roaster like us who's also operating a noshery or a cafe, or from a roaster who's delivering coffee beans to your place, what are your
I just
expectations?
speak from a very selfish.
Considering you've also had international coffee, so is there a difference? I feel we're at par with them.
No, I feel there's a big difference.
Okay,
Yeah.
in roasting or at the farm level?
At the beans level, now I don't know. I think they're all because the amount of
You can't compete with the altitude for sure.
you can't
Yeah.
you can't compete with the altitude. You can't compete with the soil, which is why there is a difference, and as it should be, and that is also totally fine.
You said a vast difference. Sorry.
But there is a difference, like the amount of margin of error that an international good coffee, if you buy, say, from, I don't know, I'm talking about the best.
Pona.
Yeah, I'm talking about Say, I'm talking about La Cabra, I'm talking about
Yeah, I got the point.
Coffee Collective, I'm talking about Vendelbo. It's very slim. And of course, there's not years, there's decades of expertise and there's amount of wealth and science that's gone into it. And I think it's totally fine if there are differences. There are differences between Indian writers and international writers.
No, I'll tell you, from what I've seen, I've been to these roasters also. The major difference is an Indian roaster would generally start with a 5 kilo roaster.
Okay, like a bullet.
No, a 5 kilo roaster is the starting commercial roaster.
Okay.
You drop 5 kgs of beans into the 5 kilo roaster, you will get somewhere close to 4.24, depends on your roast level.
Okay.
So that's how we start. And a bag of coffee is generally 60 kilos.
Okay.
So you will have to do the batch multiple number of times. Yes, you can have complete control over it. Yes, you can use your eye, you can use your senses, and there are now softwares and AI also.
Yeah.
As opposed to now a foreign abroad roaster, they will have roasters which are 60 kgs. So one entire sack gets loaded in the roaster, one
how does that
entire
make a
batch.
difference?
So consistency, like you said, right? Every bag of coffee is then going to be the same because it belongs to the same batch. Now, if you buy a coffee from Graceful, let's say you buy the beetle leaf today, and you buy the beetle leaf next month, the batch of the roasting is going to be different. We roast one batch today, we might roast another batch next week also.
True.
I want to say that it will be 100% identical, and we do take a lot of effort into making sure that that is there, and that's called the consistency in roasting. But doing the 60 kg together and doing 555 kg makes a lot of difference.
But even if the green beans are vacuum steamed, then still there will be difference.
Yeah, because that time when you were roasting, what was the ambient temperature? What was the weather? When did you start? How much of preheating of the roaster you did? How attentive you were? Though you had softwares and AI and everything in place, everything matters. Plus the green bean stored over the period of time will lose 0.1%, 0.2% of moisture. Plus we as roasters have to keep green beans in a very air-conditioned, nice place so that the longevity or the life of the bee kind of increases.
True.
I think that's the biggest difference.
Yeah.
And nonetheless, back to you, like what is your expectation from roasters?
Again, I mean, because I come from this strange point of this, what's the right word? Because the bad word is greed. That I come from this greed of wanting to have excellent coffee. So my expectation is to always have coffee with great clarity, with delicate and complex notes, which has a large margin of error, which is clean. But because I also happen to be from this country and I happen to have a fair bit of love for everyone who's involved in the coffee chain, I also understand that owing to climate change, owing to the rising prices, owing to the business, and I know it's very difficult.
That's the war you can't win.
Yeah, that's the war you can't win, and sometimes there are certain roasters also in the market, like it happens in every market, who are more in the business of, say, dalbo, just put it out, as opposed to being very meticulous, having the right equipment, having the right control of parameters, be it
That's again another difference. So roasters abroad will have, they'll check the density of the green bean, they'll check the moisture of the green bean, they'll have color sorters, color graders, they will do they'll brew the coffee, they'll check what was the ratio, how much percentage was extracted, how it was extracted. We also do that, but there's a little bit of apprehension when it comes to technology. It will change, but then again, there are very less roasters. I don't know. It comes down to money also. Like a roaster starting abroad would have like 1 crore to just invest in the roastery, wherein in India I would try to do that 20 or 30 lakh rupees. When I'll have a small roaster, I'll have a 5 kg roaster, and then I'll have a couple of things like a storage rack to keep my green. Wherein they will have destoners, demagnetizers, and the technology goes on and on. Even the farmers there use UV color sorters and all of that to segregate their beans. There is a difference, and I think we are trying to. I feel we are at par, but nonetheless, you have.
in terms of but at par in what sense?
See, we have the final cup. We have come a long way. I know that every time I try a coffee and when I get a clean cup or clarity of flavors, I'm like, the roast is perfect. Like this roaster or this farmer has done a great job, and the justice was done to the coffee. I know that feeling is a little bit less in India, but no cup in India today will disappoint you. No cup in India today, and it will make you look forward to have another cup of coffee next day.
For sure. Yeah, if the question is that does the Indian coffee make you, when you drink it, does it excite you, or does it make you go like, well, this was not worth it? It's definitely it definitely excites you far more. That's there for sure.
Okay. It was nice talking to you, Dhruv. That is it for today. Thank you again for making this trip, coming here. The whole reason to do the podcast today for our audience, generally we have a wall and we have a setup and everything done. So today we are doing this podcast in our Bandra West location, wherein Rasul Coffee Roasters would be starting soon. And a sneak peek of the place and more pictures and more information will obviously be out there soon. And I'm glad that Dhruv, you could come back and do your research on the cafe.
Yeah, no.
And walk in.
I look forward to
Yeah.
cycling down here on Sundays. What time
Nice.
do you plan to open? The timings of the cafe?
8 a.m.
Yeah, cool.
8 a.m. we would be in a position to serve you.
Yeah. Very cool.
So, thank you all for joining again. This was episode 6 of Behind the Coffee, a podcast talk show by Graceful Coffee Roasters. I'll see you all in the next episode. And thank you, Dhruv, again
Thank
for
you so
coming
much.
and
Yes.
giving your time.